Do you ever find yourself sometimes caught up in a cycle of thinking or worrying about the same thing over and over again to the point where it messes up with your sleep, moods, and even your relationship? It feels like our mind is going around in circles with a bunch of what ifs, how come, why did we do that? Now let's be clear, it is normal to think things through, but there are times that getting caught up in endless cycles of overthinking can lead to negative outcomes. In this episode, we will talk about overthinking, explore why we find ourselves overthinking in the first place, identify some common signs to show that we are doing this, and most importantly, discuss strategies for dealing with this negative impact on our psychological health and well-being. Hi there, I'm Ayo from the Talking Hub, and we are discussing the impact of overthinking on our psychological health and well-being. We can describe overthinking as simply spending so much time on the same thoughts, worries, and fears for longer than necessary without reaching a resolution or action at all. We could also say that it's an unproductive cycle of excessive thinking which can lead to frustrations, anxiety, and distress. A brief example could be us lying awake, second-guessing ourselves and wondering whether we fit in with our friends, family members, colleagues, and peers. Another example could be us excessively worrying about what others might think of us or becoming anxious about what our future holds, whether we will be successful, get married, become rich, or build a career, or anything else that constitutes making it in life. Now, while it's good to have aspirations and personal goals, excessively pondering on these thoughts can contribute to creating stress, anxiety, and frustration in our lives. Overthinking is characterized by a difficulty in controlling one's thoughts and a tendency to be completely focused on negative outcomes or past events, which could have been traumatic, unpleasant, and possibly humiliating. According to cognitive behavioral theory, overthinking is a learned behavior influenced by our own experiences, self-talk, and reactions to different situations. Some common reasons for overthinking could be because we fear the unknown and we are sometimes worried about uncertain outcomes. For example, we could start worrying because we are starting a new job or moving to a new location. And our fear of the unknown can sometimes make us entirely focused on negative outcomes, leading to distress and anxiety. We sometimes doubt our own abilities, and this leads to overthinking, which serves as a medium to compensate for our own insecurities because we are worried about how others will perceive us. Another reason for overthinking could be the fact that we aim for perfection at all times and obsess over our mistakes and shortcomings because we're trying so hard to live up to the expectations of others. And finally, we overthink in our relationships and personal lives, and we sometimes find ourselves worrying or overanalyzing conversations, actions, and intentions. All these patterns of behaviors can contribute to creating strains and conflict in our relationships. So how does overthinking negatively impact our psychological health and well-being? Well, it could cause stress because there is so much going on in our minds, and this can make us feel anxious and overwhelmed. Overthinking also has the tendency to make us feel uneasy, and this can contribute to stress and anxiety. We could also have mood swings because our moods tend to fluctuate from being calm to being anxious, and we could move from a position of being hopeful to living in despair because of the distress caused by overthinking. Another negative impact caused by overthinking could be the disruption of our sleeping patterns. We might constantly be tossing and turning in our beds, lying awake because our mind is filled with worries, and hypothetical thoughts or scenarios, making it difficult for us to relax and fall off to sleep. And finally, we could also experience social withdrawal and disconnection from friends or family members because we have the concerns of being judged or rejected in social situations. There are a lot more negative impacts that we could discuss, but let's stick to these ones for now. Okay, so we've been able to describe overthinking, list some possible reasons for overthinking, and discuss some of the impacts that overthinking can have on our psychological health and well-being. Let's now talk about some strategies to address the main issue of overthinking. Some strategies that could help might be talking to someone. It's always good to talk to someone about how we're feeling because talking provides an outlet for expressing ourselves. Talking to friends, family members, or a specialist professional can potentially help us see the problem more clearly and from different perspectives. We could also gain some insight into things that we possibly hadn't considered before. One other thing that talking does is that it makes us realize that we are not alone in the journey of life, and this can be quite comforting and encouraging. Another strategy that we could consider is trying to figure out what initiates or encourages overthinking in our lives. Does the urge to overthink happen when we are alone, or when we feel stressed, or when we're about to make crucial and important decisions? An example I can easily give was my constant worrying about attending events coordinated by friends and family members. Because there was a possibility of me not knowing so many people at the events, I would think about how I would introduce myself to others, what I would talk about, if I would fit in, or whether I would be standing all by myself. To be honest, it was just unnecessary, and I really didn't enjoy myself at those events because I was more concerned about other things. Identifying some of the things responsible for overthinking can help us to begin to challenge the legitimacy of our thoughts, focus on the present moment, and gently change our mindsets once we recognize those scenarios or thoughts initiating the overthinking. One other helpful approach we could adopt is learning to accept uncertainty and focus on solutions instead of dwelling on the problem. This approach can encourage us to take positive actions to stop overthinking. Accepting uncertainty simply involves acknowledging that life is full of ups, downs, and unknowns, and that trying to predict or control every outcome is impossible. It is genuinely okay not to have all the answers, and in a nutshell, we should be kind to our minds. One other approach that might sound a bit difficult and possibly harsh, depending on our views, is to sometimes avoid making everything about us all the time. There are times where we should consider the views and perspective of others, and this will help us not take things too personally or jump into conclusions or even make unnecessary assumptions of ourselves. We could also address the issue of overthinking by seeking professional help. Professional help can be a valuable resource for us because specialist professionals can provide personalized strategies, therapy, counseling, and support to help us regain control over our thoughts and improve our overall well-being. And finally, engaging with people, friends, or family members can really help with addressing the issues of overthinking because being around others, having a good time, possibly chatting or doing things together keeps our minds busy with what is happening in the present moment. Socializing and interacting with others can also help in decreasing the feelings of loneliness and isolation, which are often catalysts for overthinking. Now, it's important to mention that putting some of these measures in place to address the issues of overthinking can have some long-term benefits and improve the qualities of our lives. These benefits could be anything from an improvement in our mental health, better sleep quality, enhanced decision-making skills, increased productivity, better relationship with others, and finally, emotional resilience. In summary, overthinking is a habit that can significantly impact our psychological health and well-being. It's important to mention that it's okay to reflect on life's events, but dwelling on them excessively can prevent us from enjoying the present moment and moving forward. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the Talking Hub, and you can also listen to or download this episode on Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts.